it's Michael Levine, Executive Director of the Mid-Coast Symphony Orchestra, welcoming you back to Backstage with the MSO. Tonight's episode is going to feature anecdotes from orchestra members about their favorite MSO musical memories. Some are good, some are a little bit on the embarrassing side, but whatever they are, we're gonna hear them. So let's go ahead and listen up, shall we?
One of my most memorable moments with MSO is when we had piano soloist Charles Floyd. He played with us 3 times, but once we played a terrifically difficult concerto with him. I think it was Rachmaninoff concerto, and for an encore, after all that hard playing, he came out and he played the most simplest melody of Jesus Loves Me and improvised on it. And I looked around in the orchestra and you could see tears in people's eyes because it was so gorgeous. Such a simple melody, and he made it so beautiful. It was like the most beautiful thing that we'd ever heard.
A really memorable moment for me in the MSO when we performed Mahler's Fifth Symphony. This is a really important piece in my life, and growing up, I listened to a lot of classical music with my parents, Robert J. Lertzema on the weekends, and so I was used to pretty middle-of-the-road classical, Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, maybe a little Tchaikovsky to throw things in there. And I think I remember the moment when I was 16 when I first learned about Mahler's Fifth Symphony. A friend of mine told me about it and said the All-Eastern Orchestra was going to perform it, and I was like, what's that? And I drove myself to Barnes & Noble and I picked up a copy of the CD and I popped it in my car stereo. Yes, that was a thing. And I'd never heard anything like that before, and it instantly moved me. And I went on to music school in college, and then when I stopped playing professionally, I never had the opportunity to perform it, and I never thought that I would. And then the opportunity came with the Mid-Coast to perform Mahler's Fifth in 2020, and we were set to perform in March 17th, 18th of 2020, and the Thursday before the concerts we had to cancel. And I thought that my chance to perform it was over and we were never going to do it again. So it was really memorable for me to be able to perform that with the orchestra, and it was really a high moment for me in my musical career.
One of my most memorable moments in the MSO was when we had guest conductor Jin Park conducting us for the Elgar Variations. And we had a very quiet moment in between movements when the audience is not supposed to clap. And in between the movements, the next movement required a mute. And I'm sitting right next to Carol in the first violin section, right next to the concertmaster. And I had to very quickly push my mute onto my bridge. But what happened was, in my haste to push the mute onto my bridge, I actually pushed pressure onto my bridge, which had been getting a bunch of tension from the strings because it had been starting to bend. It snapped flat onto my violin with a horrible cracking sound, and there was a huge explosion of noise, and everybody in the entire orchestra, as well as in the audience, gasped and looked at me, and I sat there frozen, holding my violin, which I could not play because it was completely flat. The bridge was completely flat, the strings were flat, I couldn't play the violin. So I'm looking around in panic, and Carol says to me, oh, just get up and leave and sneak out the back. And then Jin Park says, no, give this to me. He takes my violin, and instead of loosening the strings, which is what you should do if you're going to put the bridge back up if it falls flat, he takes his fingers and pries the bridge vertical again from being horizontal and gets my violin all back together and hands it back to me. And the audience is like holding their breath. And Carol's like, let's get you an A and tune you. I go to tune my violin and it's perfectly in tune. It was a shocking moment of like, whoa, this is the craziest thing that happened. And the whole audience started applauding because this was a Herculean effort that he did to fix my violin in the middle of a concert in between movements. It was very exciting, very stressful, easily the most stressful experience I've ever had in my career as a musician, but it was definitely one of the more fun and memorable moments that I've enjoyed here at the MSO.
I have 2 favorite MSO moments. The first is a concert. Tessa Lark played with us. She was a violinist. She played on a Stradivarius violin, which was amazing. And literally her sound hit the back of the Orion. After her second Sunday concert with us, she kicked off her high heels and played an encore of Bluegrass. And that was amazing. And my second favorite MSO memory is when Ava Smith, Rowan's wife, played the Prokofiev violin concerto with the orchestra, and I just loved rehearsing with her because she and Rowan are both so passionate, of course, about music, and they just argued in German during rehearsals about, you know, how she was playing things, and of course how he was conducting things, and it was hysterical. And I loved seeing that beautiful, intimate side of them, how much they love music. And Ava was incredible. The Prokofiev brought the house down both nights, and it was, of course, incredibly personal for the orchestra and the audience.
One Wednesday in January 2023, just before the weekend of concerts, I got a call from Rowan in the morning, and he said, "Can you take over for me? I have been diagnosed with COVID." And so he sent PDFs of the scores to me, and I printed them off that afternoon so I could have them for rehearsal that night. And he FedExed the scores to me, so for the Friday rehearsal I was all set, and then concerts on Saturday and Sunday. So it was a pretty wild few days. I've conducted a lot before, so that part didn't bother me too much, but just, you know, getting really comfortable with all the music and pulling it all together was a memory indeed.
One of the most memorable pieces we played was about 4 years ago. We played Mahler's Fifth Symphony. For me, it's probably the hardest bassoon part I've ever encountered. That plays very low, fast notes, high notes, a great piece. But of all the Mahler symphonies, this is the hardest, I think, for winds. And pieces I'd like to play, I'd hope Rowan sometime would play Copland's Third Symphony. When I went to college, it was the first piece I played with the college orchestra. It's a great piece, and who doesn't love Copland? It's Americana.
Well, my favorite MSO memory, there are a lot of them, but the one that comes to mind is that one of the first concerts I played in, we played Hindemith's Symphony Metamorphosis, and it's a great challenge of music, and we played it very well, I think. But it was my first acquaintance with Hindemith, so I, enjoyed having my horizons widened by the symphony, and that is something that has continued as we play many composers that I've never heard of before and then enjoy. So that's my fondest memory.